We often think of the Earth as a solid, steady place. We build our homes, we plant our crops, and we trust that the sun will rise tomorrow just as it did today. But in 1815, thousands of people in Indonesia learned that the ground beneath our feet is much more restless than we think. Welcome to Krono Canvas. Today, we're looking back at a moment in history that sounds like it belongs in a sci-fi movie, but it is 100% real. Mount Tambora was once a beautiful, towering giant, over 14,000 feet tall. For the people living on the island of Sumbawa, it was just part of the scenery. They lived their lives in its shadow, farming the fertile soil around it. It was quiet. It had been quiet for hundreds of years. But nature has a way of hiding its power. And in 1812, that sleeping giant began to stretch. For about 3 years, there were small warning signs. Tiny tremors, little puffs of smoke. People noticed, but they didn't panic. How could they know? Then came April 1815. On the evening of April 10th, the mountain finally let go. It wasn't just an explosion. It was like the earth was ripping itself apart. The sound was so massive that people over 1,500 miles away heard it and thought they were under attack by warships. In the immediate area, the sky turned pitch black. Imagine it's midday, you're working in your fields, and suddenly the sun disappears. Not because of a cloud, but because of millions of tons of ash, rock, and fire being thrown into the sky. It wasn't just a local disaster. It was the largest volcanic eruption in recorded human history. Here is where the story gets really interesting. Usually, when a volcano erupts, the damage is contained to the local area. But Tambora was different. The explosion sent a massive plume of ash and sulfur high into the atmosphere, so high that the wind carried it all the way around the planet. Think about that. A single mountain in Indonesia changed the air in London, New York, and Paris. By 1816, the world began to feel it. The sunlight couldn't get through the haze. Scientists today call this a volcanic winter. But the people living back then, they didn't have a name for it. They just knew that the summer was gone. In 1816, summer never arrived. In June, while people in places like New England or parts of Europe were expecting warm weather, they got snow. Imagine planting your crops, hoping for a harvest to feed your family, and watching that crop freeze and die in the middle of summer. It caused widespread hunger. Prices for food skyrocketed because nobody could grow anything. People were confused, scared, and desperate. Without the internet, without satellite news, people had no idea why the weather had gone mad. They were living in a dark, cold, hungry world, and they were completely alone in their confusion. But here is the strangest part of the story. Because of this freezing, dark summer, people stayed indoors more often. One famous writer, Mary Shelley, was stuck indoors in Switzerland because of the endless rain and cold caused by the volcano. Because she couldn't go outside, she spent her time writing a story to pass the time. That story became Frankenstein. It's wild to think that one of the most famous horror novels in history was born because of a volcanic eruption on the other side of the world. It shows us how everything in history is connected. A volcano affects the weather, which affects the crops, which changes how people spend their time, which changes our art and literature. Today, if you go to Sumbawa, the mountain looks different. The top was blown off in that massive 1815 explosion. It is shorter now, and where the peak used to be, there is a giant crater. We study Tambora today for 2 reasons. First, because it reminds us of the sheer power of nature. We like to think we are in control of our planet, but events like this remind us that we are just guests here. Second, it teaches us about resilience. People survived that year without a summer. They adapted, they traded what little food they had, and they moved forward. The story of Mount Tambora isn't just about a mountain blowing up. It's a story about how fragile our world can be, and how one single event can ripple across the entire globe, affecting everyone, whether they know it or not. I hope this story gave you a new perspective on how connected our history really is. It's easy to look at the news today and feel like the world is unpredictable, but looking back at 1815 shows us that we have survived big changes before, and we will keep moving forward. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit the like button and subscribe to Krono Canvas. We're here every week to uncover these hidden stories from our past. Thanks for spending your time with me today. I'll see you in the next one.